Isn't it time that we have a national conversation as a country? The economy is tanking, taxes are rising, things are going down the tubes. All we can hear is all about political peccadillos and chicanery. It is time that we had a conversation in this country. It is time that we declutter and have a real conversation. And this is Siasa Bomba. I am Diversifying. Thank you for joining us on this installment of Siasa Bomba. This month we'll be running under the theme Food Security. My name is Devolution, and the hashtag is Siasa Bomba, where we say Siasa Safi Itambe. Food security as a devolved function. How has it addressed production and food prices? That is a probing question and the subject that we're just about to broach. And we know food security is part of the Big Four agenda, which President Uhuru has been rallying and reinforcing that Kenyans should be food secure in the next 20 years. Today we want to turn our focus on the role of the county government and the national government as far as food security is concerned. While the national government needs to focus on capacity building of county governments, spurring economic growth, aiding poor rural farmers and putting in place social safety nets, the county government's role should be the identification and implementation of context-specific integrated approaches to improve food security of their people. Today, here on Siasa Bomba, we want to review and see where is the complementarity between the national government and the county government as far as food security is concerned. And I'm really stoked today and happy to be hosting Professor John Krop, Lonyangapuo, who is the governor of West Pokot. Also, we do have with us Senator Wambua, Enock, who is the Senator Kitui County and Vice Chair, Senate House Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. And I want just to welcome both of you and say, Siasa Bomba is the hashtag. Siasa Bomba, Siasa Safi Itambe. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First, maybe just to get a general introduction and to know what is the current state of play as far as the county is concerned and the national government is concerned. And I'm really happy that, yes, you're the vice chair, of course, of the Committee on Agriculture. So we've got rich stream of information that you're going to tell us. But let's just begin from the counties as well. So far, since the devolution, have we really shaken into place the matter of food security?
First of all, let me send my greetings the way you have also greeted everybody. And to say, in the Council of Governors, I'm the chair for ASAL, arid and semi-arid. Mm-hmm. We have we have committees in the Council of Governors. So this one I chair, and a huge bulk and chunk of our livestock are found in ASAL areas.
Yes.
And the huge land size in Kenya are found in ASAL areas, for which is appropriate that we pay attention to them so that we can, well, that's where we should be focusing to have our food getting our food for our people in Kenya. Mm-hmm. And that means we need to be focusing on irrigation and focusing on harvesting of water, that we can be able to get to grow our crops, that we may get our food for our people and beyond, and other people as well in those counties. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy that I'm here this morning to discuss on this pertinent topic, and the counties are keenly watching to see how we implement this devolution. Remember, agriculture and livestock is fully devolved. Schedule 4 of the Constitution declares so. Meaning any monies so appropriated and so set aside for agriculture and livestock in Kenya should go to counties. So if you come to on the ground, reality is completely different. And I'm happy my brother is here. Remember, also I was in Senate, so I'm actually supposed to be addressed Governor, Senator, Professor. Really, I want to know, so far, so good. We should be able to implement what we put in our constitution. We have not amended the constitution yet. It says agriculture is devolved. So when we hear counties, when you hear me on behalf of counties and many other governors speaking, that we are straining, we are suffering, we need funding to be developed. A good amount of money remains in the national headquarters, and a number of work sometimes is done in Nairobi on our behalf. You know, when you say you are doing irrigation, and the counties are not involved, you are doing massive projects related to agriculture. I mean, really, we are not doing justice to what we devolved. So I'm happy that my brother is here, who is supposed to be the eye and spokesperson for counties in the national arena, and we work in synchrony with governors and senators.
Let's hear from him, if you're really working similarly as well.
Thank you. My good brother and friend, Governor Lonyangapuo, is right to say that he should be addressed as Governor Senator Lonyangapuo. Because once a senator, always a senator. The title that you retain for the rest of your life. So, very briefly, Dibard, first of all, to thank you for hosting me, and to say that one of the biggest challenges that we face in this country, in as far as agriculture is concerned, is that we are stuck on a principle, unwritten principle, that certain parts of this country are supposed to be the food baskets, the bread baskets of the nation. And so you hear people talk about the rift, especially Kitale and Uasin Gishu, being the areas where you will get maize to feed this nation and to feed agricultural sector in terms of industry. My argument, since I joined the Agriculture Committee of the Senate, has been that we must stop talking about a food basket in this country and weave a lot more baskets all over the country, in line with devolution, putting context to what can be produced better in what county, put resources there, and so we'll have 47 baskets coming to the national table. These baskets will contain all manner of foods. There will be maize, there will be beans, there will be dengu, there will be goat meat, there will be lamb. Those baskets coming to the table will be able to feed this nation, will be able to feed our agricultural industry, will be able to export the surplus for foreign exchange. That's where we should go.
But that is riding on the assumption that, you know, all of Kenya, the expansive Kenya that we have, is endowed homogeneously, which is not true.
No. To the contrary, it is actually in recognition of the fact that we are endowed differently. And so if you go to, let me give an example. If you go to Kitui, you can produce very high quality ndengu. So invest in production of ndengu from Kitui. If you go to Uasin Gishu, you can get good maize. Invest in production of maize from Uasin Gishu. If you go to West Pokot, perhaps you can do very good beef. So in recognition of our diversity in endowment, both natural and financial, then we put our resources where we can get the maximum output from each county. And I can tell you for sure, there is no county in this country that cannot produce anything. There is something that we can produce from each and every county in this country.
Right, we'll get, of course, granular with that as well. But I'll be remiss if we continue with this particular discussion and not train our focus on what is happening currently in the country. We know that President Uhuru Kenyatta declared, you know, drought a national disaster. And it got me thinking, does this particular declaration lays bare the gross inequalities that we have as a country that has defined the Kenyan state since independence, devolution notwithstanding?
You know, from independence up to just now, there are some parts of this country where the national government has continued to feed people even when there's water, when it's raining. What does that mean? It means there are parts of our country that we haven't yet paid any significant attention. Our policy in agriculture and food production is still resonating with what we inherited from the colonial masters, where we defined areas as areas that should be given relief food, even when it's raining. So devolution has come, but the proper and quality attention from the national arena running agriculture, which is supposed to be like the engine to make sure that things are moving, has not been played quite well. We produce food now, but it's not enough for our people in Kenya. We bring a lot of our main staple food in Kenya here, mainly, generally, especially where I come from, is maize. But where does a good chunk of our maize come from? Neighboring countries. Why? It's because we haven't realized and put maize as a premium choice food attention that we know. Practically, we know people need maize. But as a nation and as a serious government, we haven't made sure that we put proper attention to make sure that where does our maize come from. Now what has now happened, we have allowed land to be simplified into pieces. You know, there are areas which needs to be demarcated and zoned.
The fragmentation, yeah?
Yeah, for maize production, for livestock production, for dairy production, whatever you want to call it. Now we have lost it, completely lost it because of these minor laws that have come. And we have officers also from the national government in the Ministry of Land, where suddenly there is an hunger and appetite for people to have a title deed. Give me my title deed. Yet, if these areas were group ranches and community land, what has driven you, national government officers, to sneak in and entertain that idea where you want to cut land, which was supposed to be communal land, to give a small title deed to tiny characters around and they start selling it? This is something that is coming, and I want us to discuss as a serious discussion going forward. Where will our food come from in the years to come if we split and simplify this land into pieces? If you want a title deed, have that one communal title deed, but you can then set aside and demarcate and design this land where you can produce food for consumption, for human consumption, areas where you can produce food for animal consumption, and eventually that's what we should be heading to. And areas like Itui is a big land. People are thinking it's a desolate. There's nothing called desolate. If we can be able to, West Pokot is called arid and semi-arid. Because of what is happening now, we tried to do some farming in areas which had never been farmed ever before. And because of the rich nutrients on the ground, the food coming from the soils in that area is so good and so amazing. Meaning, if we can be able to increase and come up with innovative methods of doing today's farming, it requires some irrigation. Not massive irrigation, but you can even use the latest techniques that we see in Israel, where they use drip irrigation and so on and so on. It requires massive support. That's why I'm saying the national government, the money that was normally meant for agriculture, should be simplified and sent to counties. Increase the basket, because that's where your life is. That's where your food should be coming from. There we can introduce now the latest techniques of drip irrigation, and we can be able to get food.
But you are not happy with actually how this money is trickling down to
it's not coming. It's not coming.
It is really frustrating.
Exceedingly frustrating.
And this lays squarely on the table of, the national government. And Enock, you, the senator, you're supposed to be the one who's pushing the envelope to see this money is actually trickling down to the counties.
Sure, Debal. And to be fair to the Senate, and you are a witness to it, and he is a witness to it, when there was an attempt by the government to bring about a basis of sharing revenue to counties that was going to disadvantage a lot of counties, the Senate stood its ground, and we ensured that we came up with a basis of sharing revenue among counties that would increase allocations to counties substantively. Now, there is an issue, and I want to pick from where Governor has reached. On the issue of fragmentation of land,
Yes.
that's purely a function of population growth. You cannot stop it. It will happen because our population is growing, our land is not increasing. The biggest problem that I think we face as a nation is the issue of our inability or unwillingness to innovate around the challenges of climate change. You know, climate change is real, my brother. It's real. The adverse effects are real. And to expect that we would rely on rain-fed agriculture to feed our people is expecting too much from Mother Nature. What the government should be doing today is making sure that we have programs, both the national government and the county governments and development partners, programs to ensure that we create our own seasons. We cannot be saying that we are waiting for the December rains to plant and feed the nation. What happens if the rains don't come? It's actually what we are observing today.
Yes.
That's why the president is declaring drought a national disaster. And with that, my brother, I also want to fault the national government. When you declare drought a national disaster, it is expected that an emergency program sets in immediately in the declaration of a disaster. I would have expected that the National Assembly would have been called in for a special sitting to ratify that declaration and to set aside a mitigation fund. Because once you say that you have a disaster at hand and there are no funds set aside to deal with the disaster.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
And ask you that critical question. You're talking about mitigation fund.
Yes.
But I'm given to understand 15 billion shillings is set aside for this sort of a disaster, right? When we have a drought. And it seems that as Kenya, we don't learn anything because in June 2021, National Drought Management Authority warned of worsening food security in 12 counties. And looking at the trend of this drought cycle, it has significantly reduced in recent past, that particular cycle. Now it's contracting to 2 years. We don't know, it will be 1 year every time. In fact, former President Mwai Kibaki declared drought as a national disaster 4 times during his tenure. In 2017, President Uhuru Kenyatta declared drought a national disaster. Now, just last week on Wednesday, he's declared another drought as a national disaster. Your Excellency, given this history, do we as a country continue treating drought and the attendant hunger as an emergency response? It seems there's something really, really bad. Something really not shaken into place as far as policy making is concerned. Because 4 times, 2 times from President Uhuru Kenyatta, Mheshimiwa is saying we should be having a mitigation fund. 15 billion is set aside. Where is this money? Where is this money going to? This 15 billion shillings?
You know, I wanted to conclude my conversation by saying this.
Yes, please.
The money that is set aside, and I'm saying we have to set the money aside now because we have declared a disaster. But I'm saying we should learn from that declaration and do things that tomorrow and the years to come, we will not declare disaster. And this is how. I come from a county that a lot of people, as he said, think it's a desolate county. It is not. On Sunday, I visited an irrigation scheme in Kitui called Wicked Irrigation Scheme. If you go there today, even as the president is declaring a drought a national disaster, the greenery in that scheme is amazing. Very healthy, very large, I think over 500 acres on maize crop. And I'm saying the rivers that from where we can tap water for irrigation are still flowing. So instead of putting 15 billion to deal with an emergency of 2 months, maybe 3 months, why not set aside a fund, and remember there was an issue with Galana Kolalu irrigation scheme.
We'll get to that.
Yeah? Why not set aside and seriously invest in irrigation agriculture? We produce food, and we can even time when we plant, when we will harvest, how much we will harvest, where we'll take that food. That is a more structured conversation that we can have as a nation. It's a more structured approach to the fight against drought. It's a more structured conversation in ensuring food security.
But Mheshimiwa, I'd ask you that particular question. This cycle that is contracting, but we still remain, as always, none the wiser as a country.
First of all, I want us to be very candid the way you said. Right now, we are focusing on drought. The opposite of drought is disaster caused by rains.
The floods.
The floods. 1 year ago, in your own TV screens, you saw the devastation that West Pokot went through. All the mountains and the hills carved in, and we lost lives and lost people. It rained like never before. But where does the water go? The water chooses to go to two areas very fast, Lake Turkana and Lake Victoria. And along the way, it causes havoc. Homes are destroyed, and businesses are wiped, lives gone. And it looks like because of the climate change, we have not seen the worst yet. This water comes as a blessing, but it causes a lot of havoc. We are now talking about drought. The president has just declared a disaster. It means the reality has to dawn on all of us, both the national government and county governments, that we must focus to see on how we should mitigate on the climate change. We must also see how to deal with some of these emergencies, drought and floods. Personally, I saw this water that was wasting itself and going. Can we be able to dam this water? I know Kenyans, when they hear about big dams, people begin to shake around.
Of course,
I'm saying we should be bold enough to say, whether we like it or not, we can no longer continue to depend on rain-fed agriculture. Let's dam this water.
But Your Excellency, with all due respect, we've been talking a good game about water harvesting in this country. When we talk about Budalangi floods, right? Ever since I've been a young boy, these are stories we've heard from TV. Until now, we're still talking about water harvesting. It seems, yes, there is that particular intention, but the will to implement is what is not really there. When you talk about, climate change and the effects of climate change, I'm given to understand also from the county's point of view, you have the climate, smart sort of farming that is being advocated as well with the Kenya Climate Innovation Farming schemes that you're collaborating with USAID as well. You can tell us more about that as well.
I'll tell you, because we also, in West Pokot, we have the climate smart agriculture. That is a very small fraction of what we are talking about. We are talking about disasters like rain has come. All the rivers are destroyed and whatever. So what I meant was, can we be able to come up with schemes? National government can do it. We begin to control these floods. And when you're controlling the floods, it means you have an intention to use the water for farming. India did it. And they have a lot of many dams. So the water is contained and then you can use it for irrigation. So what I meant was, county government and national government has to face the problem head on. Look at the context of West Pokot. Look at the context of Kitui. Look at the context of the county. It has a peculiarity. Others may not have rivers, but we can also do the dams in my county, and my county can get water. We can use it in Trans Nzoia, we can use it in Turkana County. I'm mentioning West Pokot. So I'm saying, these floods will continue to come, this drought will continue to come. Let's face it. Can we dedicate technology to make sure that we dam these rivers and we to utilize to make our food?
Thank you.
Debar, would you allow me to weigh in just a minute on that issue of damming?
Please,
yes. Actually, where it comes from, we are lucky that, in a sense, that the water goes to Lake Victoria and Lake Turkana, which are not very far off, and the water is still fresh. My friend, the biggest problem that we have where I come from is that when it rains, it pours in Kitui. Serious rains. Fresh water all of it
Goes
to the ocean, becomes salty and useless. But when it's fresh, you just look at it going, and there's very little. As you're saying, there must be a point at which the national government, because at the end of the day then, the capacity of counties to do serious damming is not there. They don't have the resources to do that.
But isn't it increasingly frustrating as well when you talk about, this fresh water that cannot be captured, it goes all the way to the ocean, it becomes useless, as you say.
Yeah.
In light of where we're living today with technology, desalination is an aspect that we should be thinking about. Why are you saying no? And we have countries who are actually desalinating this water. Not even that salty water, seawater that is being treated and recycled and back to the taps of Wananchi.
Because I spoke about the salty water debate, allow me to go in first on that one. When you do desalination of water, first of all, it's a very expensive exercise. Exceedingly expensive. And if you do irrigation on water that you have recycled, either from the ocean or from the sewer system, the cost of production for that food will be too high. The easiest thing to do is to stop the water from going to that ocean in the first place. The ocean has enough water of its own. You don't need water to flow from the dry lands into the ocean to become salty and useless and leave people dying and suffering. That's my take.
All right.
So I continue from where I left. What we should be doing is what the developed countries have done. If you go to UK, all the rivers have been managed. They control the floods. So you contain the river, you build walls, river walls. So that the water is freely moving. You don't allow, in West Pokot now, River Takwel, why should that water erroneously just trespass? And that's not causing havoc. We should contain them along the way. And then reaching somewhere, you have spillways. This one now goes to, so you push them to some dam. When it is full, it goes to another one. And it's full to another one. If we can start like that, we will achieve. But when we start saying, let's go and dig some dam, the way the big ones you have been talking about, let's dam the rivers. First of all, contain the water into the river, so that we are recovering the land from here. And then from there, slowly and surely, you can even do fishing there. You can even boat rides if you want to do anything that you want to do in those rivers. That's where we should go in a small way. If the developed countries did it, and I don't know whether they want to also show us, we can even go and pinch back, go to any rivers in US. Most of them have done like that. They are no longer free. I mean, they don't allow nature to take its own course. You make sure that the water is protected so it doesn't trespass. You can build your house or a hotel next to the river. So we have lost it. So I meant we need to use that, we make proper use of this water. We don't have enough money, but can we start somewhere? It is allowed. We can start somewhere small and move in every county. Like when I was in Senate, my brother is there. We actually attempted to say the government is. You said you're going to discuss about it next. Want to do a mega irrigation? How many acres? Millions? Can we divide that million of money you want to go and do it in Galana? And say we are setting out 5-10 billion per county. Then we will do our small irrigation then. Our small dams, the way I'm talking about, in that county. And if there's no land in Trans Nzoia or those, Nairobi is just full of houses, you come and lease in West Pokot. We'll give you a land, you lease for 50 years. And then you can dam wherever you want to go from the money that we have divided. So I'm saying we can have the little we have. And when development partners see the idea has grown, they normally come and join us.
Yeah, and that's why we should not be greatly shy to actually push these ideas to the development partners as well. Even desalination itself. Yeah, we should not be greatly shy to say, yes, we have this particular idea and plan, but we actually should change when it comes to financing. Let me come back to you because you mentioned Galana. The Agriculture Committee as well. They went to Galana and they gave a go-ahead. If you may remember, I think it was in 2013 or 2014? Yeah, 2016. They gave a go-ahead that, this project is viable. come 2020, there is no good news coming from Galana. What went wrong?
Thank you, Dibar. I remember it was around 2014.
2014.
Which time I was still in the newsroom with you. And I actually covered that story myself from a journalist's point of view. On paper, Galana looks fantastic. But when it comes to the implementation of that program, you realize that, first of all, it's an over-ambitious program. Over-ambitious because we're talking about putting under irrigation 1 million acres. The equipment itself, it's the cost of bringing that equipment there to do that job is daunting. Now, the answer to Galana is what I had mentioned to you about the small irrigation schemes, and that's, I think, what Governor is talking about. That decentralize Galana, do bits and pieces of it across the country in a more manageable way. And that's what we are saying. Where I come from in Kitui, I told you about the Ewikiduki irrigation scheme. And the beauty actually of that scheme that I'm talking about is that in a year, you get 2 bumper harvests, as opposed to doing rain-fed agriculture, where you get 1 harvest in 1 year. Now, we've set aside a maximum of 10,000 acres in Wikiduki. Now we have just completed 500. We are doing the next 500 in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We'll have 1,000. And we move stage by stage. I think the problem with Galana is that somebody thought that they can take thousands of acres and put them under irrigation at the same time and just out of nowhere succeed in producing the crop.
But I'm inclined to wonder, because
yes,
even before that particular pass was given by the Committee on Agriculture, I don't know, you were not there by then,
sure,
you were in the newsroom, as you mentioned, but they had actually started, not given a go-ahead with Galana Kulalu, because they, according from the reports, this was not a viable project. But the information that was coming to hand is that they were taken to Mombasa, and then the conversation changed completely. Then Galana became a very viable project. Could we say also corruption has largely played in this particular scheme?
I would not rule out corruption. I will not rule it out. But I will also, in defense of the senators that sat in that meeting at that time, senators sitting in the Committee of Agriculture are not necessarily agricultural experts. They are leaders. And there's something that is happening lately, and I saw it an account I went the other day, I will not mention the name, PowerPoint presentations, somebody gives you the impression of what it is that they want to do, and it looks beautiful and wonderful, and they tell you it's possible because you have done it in such and such a place. It can be done here, just give us 3 months and you see what will happen. And you give them the benefit of the doubt. So corruption, yes. Seriously, I believe that if government was serious about Galana succeeding,
yes,
they would have faced it out. That's the only way out. They would have faced it out, start with maybe 2,000, 3,000 acres, move on to maybe 10,000, move to 20,000.
Thank you.
It would have succeeded.
Thank you.
But doing it all at once,
right. Thank you. Given that we also pinched for time and we need to cover just a lot before we wind up, I want us to see also the impact of COVID-19 and what it has done, especially in the counties as well. How has the pandemic, and of course the associated policy responses, starkly exposed the fragility of our food systems in the counties?
In 1 minute, let me close what he was talking about. You see now, like the Kulalo scheme,
please,
that was massive. Where did they expect to get the water? That water is rain-fed, and when the skies begin to release the water, Tana River becomes erratic. So what we needed to do, not only is what is saying, we should have dammed it from the source. Let's control this water coming. Your intention is to farm downstream, start from upstream. Control it as you come, even if you don't want to use it from there. Because the moment it rains, it will kill everything. And that's why we lost it. Yes. Even the Wambua irrigation scheme in West Pokot, we lost it, but we are trying to revive it. So we have asked about the effect of the COVID and how it has affected agriculture and so on and so on. Of course, the pandemic came and it has hit everything. You can even feel, going forward, we are feeling as a country, the economy is depressed because of the effects of the COVID. Agriculture has received the biggest hit because even the people working in the farm, we are all affected. You remember we were lockdowns, were all fully there.
Yes.
And then again, even when we are talking about food, when you get your seed, for example, they come from where you get your seed. You don't manufacture seed there in the farm. You have to get them from the seed companies. Seed companies have been affected, and so on and so on. So it's a chain. It's a big chain. Counties have been affected, and personally, we need to see how we can invest more in counties, especially now because of the COVID. Areas that have been hard hit by COVID is the health sector,
yes,
the agriculture sector, and the livestock sector. So the only problem we have in Kenya, which is a disease, is when we want to bring a program like now this drought. Funds have been set aside. The moment money is mentioned that we are putting there,
yes,
the first thing Kenyans do jump around is corruption is now going to go there. Why do we entertain those evil thoughts first to begin with? Why don't we begin the projects? Is there a need for this thing? Yes. Can we do it?
Thank you.
Let's do it and then deal with those thieves and corruption as we go along. But the moment we start saying that's now an outlet for corruption, then it means there's nothing good anymore anybody can do in this world.
Right.
Yeah.
Senator Wambua, I want us also to just focus on food security and legislation. And this should be concerning many Kenyans because you're mentioning livestock. There's a livestock bill 2021. And the point of contention is we know that clause that bars Kenyan farmers from keeping bees for commercial purposes unless they are registered under the Apiary Act. The government, through the Permanent Secretary for Livestock, Mr. Harry Kimutai, tried to justify this by saying that the aim of registering beekeepers is to commercialize beekeeping instead of it being a traditional practice. And I know from Kacheliba constituency in West Pokot, you're big on beekeeping.
Yes.
Let's come to you because I think this really falls squarely on your table as well.
Thank you. On the issue of food security and legislation.
Punitive legislation.
Yes. I will not call it punitive legislation. I call it legislation.
How does this really sound to you then?
Because there is something that we need to do as leaders to educate our people on the need for regulation. Regulating all sectors of the economy, including the agriculture sector. And regulation does not always translate to punishment. Regulation is just saying, let's infuse order in the way that we do things. I'll give you an example. What is the problem with requiring a bee farmer to register with an association for purposes of even being able to know how many bee farmers are in Kacheliba, so that when the governor is going to talk to a market in the US for their honey, he knows how many people he's talking about, how much honey they can produce in one season, so that you're not saying that I have honey and you can't even say how much it is that you're going to produce. So regulation is not necessarily a bad thing. But moving on.
But it is not supposed to be draconian, right?
It's not supposed to be.
I'm supposed to do it out of my own volition. You should not, shoehorn me to actually be a part of any association or any union for that matter.
Let's bring it to ourselves, Dibar. It's like saying, because it is my car and I've bought it with my money, I would not need to register it. I mean, it's your bees, it's your hives, it's your honey, but for purposes of just infusing order in the industry, what is the problem with registration? If you're talking about maybe you're being told you have to pay 10,000 shillings to register as a member, now we would have a conversation around that. But just requiring people to register for purposes of records. And by the way, let me tell you one of the things that where we go wrong in this country. We go wrong in this country because we have no statistics about almost anything. If today I ask you how many HP laptop computers do we have in this country, perhaps nobody will give you that information. Statistics is a good thing for purposes of planning. But I wanted to move beyond the bee industry and move to food security itself and legislation. In the Senate, and I want this, when you call a member of the National Assembly, I want you to put this question across to them. The Senate of the Republic of Kenya in 2017 processed a bill, a food security bill, to give effect to Article 43(1)(c) of the Constitution on the requirement for every Kenyan to have access to adequate food and food of good quality. And Article 53(1)(c) on children's right, the right for every child to have access to quality food, shelter, and healthcare. Now, guided by that, we came up with a bill on food security. A bill that even stipulates the creation of a food security authority and food security committees in every county to ensure that things that are happening today about drought, they don't happen. When the Senate processed that bill and passed it, it went to the National Assembly. They declared it a money bill. And you know, in the Constitution says that all money bills must originate from the National Assembly.
Was that the one which was being steamrolled by Beatrice Elachi?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the end of the bill. That's it. That's it. So you need to speak to the National Assembly on why the food security bill that was processed and passed by the Senate was declared a nullity just on account that it was declared a money bill. Last year, or early this year, I personally sponsored a bill, a Ndengo bill. It's called Mang Beans Bill. That bill is supposed to regulate, you hear the thing about regulation, regulate the Ndengo industry to make sure that we give support. At the center of that bill is the plight of the Kenyan Ndengo farmer. To make sure that we give them proper inputs, we give them extension services, we provide markets for their crop, we ensure that the crop does not rot on the farm and that there's money that will come to the pockets of the farmers.
Thank you.
And so we're going to have legislation along all the food chains in the agriculture sector. Yes.
Mheshimiwa, you wanted to weigh on it because we're just supposed to wind up. And maybe a question that we should be asking still, Wambua, is the fact that there has been a law on declining allocations to the agriculture and food sector. And this is why also I think the counties are getting affected as this. As a proportion of total voted expenditure, the current allocation is 2.9%, down from 3.5% in 2016-2017. I'm inclined to wonder again, why does Kenya even continue to default on Maputo Declaration that, you should spend at least 10% of your budget on agriculture?
The Maputo Declaration is very clear.
Can we have Mheshimiwa answer, then you'll weigh on it?
Sure.
Because I think this is why also you're experiencing some frustration as well.
Seriously. Until Kenyans wake up to the reality that we are headed for disaster if we are not paying attention to agriculture and livestock, where our food comes from, for our bodies first of all. The moment you continue giving very little money to agriculture and livestock, we are headed for disaster. In my county, for 3 cumulative years now, I have raised the agriculture and livestock percentage to now 12 to going to 13% of the funds that we get, the little amount we get. per year going to that. And we have seen significant results. You go and visit Wambua irrigation scheme, which was dead in my county. Look at our animals. We have now brought brand new and better breeds to change the little we had. So I'm trying to say that there's something that we need to do. Now, where we lost it is when the national government, in their wisdom with the National Assembly, I was in Senate that time, the National Assembly has woken up to be the bully around. Any law that is generated by Senate, and there's no law that has no money in it anyway, they call it, they declare it quickly, money bill. Money bill. Now, senators have processed and chosen to work and deal with issues that profit Kenya through the counties. Now, when you come and say, if this is a money bill, what are you trying to declare? So we need to see how that law that killed specific and directed agencies, Cotton Development Agency should be revived. Coconut Development Agency should be revived. Pyrethrum, which is, West Pokot is now the leading in pyrethrum because we have peculiar pyrethrum, which has the highest pyrethroid content in the whole world, is found in Leland, in West Pokot. Now, when you tell us kill it and go to Afa, what have you done to cotton? Look at, even we should be talking about the Bee Development Agency.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
Because that's where people are going to. West Pokot now is is one of the areas rivaling Kitui with honey production. So we should be able to go back. Whatever we deleted using the National Assembly and force Senate to change it, we should reverse it. We should be targeting. Almost every county is now generating laws and agencies, isn't it? We should encourage that. So that focus with the knowledge of Kenyans, we have a lot of brilliant young Kenyans now with knowledge power on what they need to do. We should encourage this type of agencies to be there. We should not be amalgamating. It's like rolling all the counties, kill all of them and come back to one Kenya. When you start destroying those agencies who are targeted to do a specific program, and now those things can blossom.
And stifling regulations as well.
Yeah,
when you talk about, even as winding up, when you talk about crop production regulation, and you cannot sell your seed unless it is certified. Well, I don't know where that is really coming from, because this will also increase the dead hand of bureaucracy, and it will be frustrating for the farmers.
Have you noted, so that I don't lose, have you noted the moment we went to do this alpha thing, agencies like NCPD died with all the silos waiting. They are now become dens and hideouts for rats. Yet we should be having our food being stored there. Because when we finish all those agencies, including that one, there's nothing you can do. There is a new project now we need to deal with. What must we do as Kenyans so that the National Assembly and Senate can begin to talk as one and begin to appreciate, and what if it means removing, I don't know whether removing some of these those overlapping mandates, so that we can have them working as one. When Senate passes anything, the National Assembly kills. When the National Assembly passes anything, the Senate also wants to have a say in it. To me, Senate has a wider focus because they have been sent specifically by Kenyans living in every county. Those other fellows have been sent by Kenyans through, but living in a council constituency. So it's like we're having a lot of competing brothers and sisters, each dealing with one role at the same time. So I think we need to see. Yes. But I mean, and we did not declare Senate as upper house. We lost it. I don't know who lost it, but we needed to declare that. In the law.
Another day. Thank you so much. I just want to give 30 seconds to both of you for your closing remarks as well. Moving forward, food security and the devolved functions that we have right now. Moving forward, where can we improve? Just in 30 seconds.
As Kenyans, we need to be assured of the food we consume for our bodies, for our children, for everybody. Where does that come from? It must come from our soils. Which soils in our counties? So I want us to think big of how we can need to invest and make sure that the food we consume in our supermarkets, I want to be allowed to be put in such a way that this food we know, where did the fertilizer come from, where did the chemicals come from, can all of them be synchronized by Kenya? we can import anything else, import vehicles if you want. Whatever we consume, I want us to have a say, complete say. These funny diseases that are strangely arriving in Kenya will disappear because we now control what we consume. This is my prayer. And all the conversation of Kenya now should focus and shift to all of us taking our intellect back to the farm.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Dibar. My take is that for us to get where we want to be in terms of food security, yes, our attention should move into empowering the Kenyan farmer. Yes. A disempowered farmer in Kenya will not produce food to feed homesteads and this nation. And I want just to draw an example, if you allow me a minute, from what happens in some jurisdictions in China, where the farmer is supreme. A farmer will be given a free pass in every public space, the metros, yes, the supermarkets, so they can do their business very fast and go back to the farm to feed the nation. That's what we need to do with our farmers. We make them the pride of our nation and make sure that we empower them to produce for themselves, for their homesteads, for their villages, and for the country. Lastly, on the issue of the Maputo Declaration, yes, I want to call upon county governments to really and seriously take charge of the allocation of resources to the agriculture sector. Because what we can only do in the Senate is do two things. In the Division of Revenue Bill, we will do the vertical sharing of revenue between national government and county governments. But then specifically we do with the county allocation of revenue bill, the CARA, where we give specific amounts of money to specific counties. When that money lands on the table of governors, I want to appeal to them to make sure that at least 10% of that money that we give them through CARA goes into agriculture. That begins the journey for empowering our farmers and producing enough food for ourselves and for surplus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just as we leave, a pause give up to both of you. The 2019 Global Hunger Index ranks Kenya as 86th of the 117 countries it measured for food security and classify Kenya's condition as serious. Serious. This is 2019. So I think that will be a pause giver to both of you as well, even as we're winding up. And I want to thank you profusely, Professor John Krop, Lonyangapuo, Governor West Pokot. Thank you for coming through today as well. And I want to thank you also so very much, Senator Wambua, Enock, Senator Kitui County, and Vice Chair, Senate House Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fishery, for that very compelling, riveting discussion that we just had here on Siasa Bomba. And we always say Siasa Bomba, Siasa Safi, Itambe. My name is Dibalai Now.